A year from our past.
In a year from our past, we'll be doing a brief history look back at a year from each decade and what we remember from those years.
So Scott will be looking at 1986, and I'll be covering 1996.
And I'll get it started with 1986. So some popular movies that came out in 1986, we had Critters, Crocodile Dundee, Back to School, The Golden Child, Invaders from Mars, Maximum Overdrive, Pretty in Pink, Labyrinth, Stand By Me, Highlander, The Fly, Platoon, Aliens, and Top Gun. The best picture from the Academy Awards for 1986 was Platoon, and the highest grossing movie from 1986 was Top Gun, with $356.8 million worldwide.
Some popular movies that were released in 1996 were Mission Impossible, Twister, Independence Day, Trainspotting, Jerry Maguire, Fargo, Scream, The Rock, Mars Attacks, Sling Blade, Swingers, The People vs. Larry Flint, The English Patient, and From Dusk Till Dawn. The film that won Best Picture at the Oscars that year was The English Patient, and the highest grossing movie was Independence Day with a worldwide gross of $306,169,255.
So both decades, or both years, had some great movies. Some movies that I loved. From 86, I mean, there are a lot of good comedies, like Crocodile Dundee, Back to School, The Golden Child, that was with Eddie Murphy. I don't know if you saw or remember that movie.
I didn't see that, no.
Pretty in Pink was pretty popular, but some of my favorite movies were more in the horror genre. I liked Maximum Overdrive. It's a movie a lot of people don't like from Stephen King and thought it was kind of corny, but I actually really liked that movie.
Was that one directed by Stephen King? Or?
I don't know if he directed it or if it was one of... He might have. He was definitely made a cameo in the movie.
Yes.
He was one of the guys that goes up to an ATM machine and it calls him an asshole.
Okay.
The Fly, I'm actually not a huge fan of The Fly, although that's David Cronenberg, maybe?
Yeah, Canadian director.
It's one of his most famous movies, but it wasn't bad. It just wasn't my type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens was one of my favorite movies of that franchise.
Do you think it's better than...
I actually like it better than the first one.
Okay.
I know the first one is maybe better and a lot more creepier, but I've always found that movie a bit slow.
Yeah, Aliens, the second one it seems a lot more action-packed.
Yeah, it's more of an action movie than
right.
a horror, sci-fi horror. Top Gun is obviously very popular. I mean, again, that wasn't a movie that I care for that much, but had a big following, and I think the sequel is coming out this year, or this coming year.
Mm-hmm.
The best picture, Platoon, I really enjoyed that movie, and I saw The English Patient. I think between those two, I like Platoon better.
I'd have to agree with that.
I guess The English Patient is more of a romance.
Yeah.
They both deal with war, but two different types of genre of movies.
Yes.
1996 movies, Mission Impossible, I didn't care for at all. I found it hard to follow. I actually liked the second one better than the first one, even though a lot of people didn't care for that one.
I think the most recent ones are way better than the first one or two.
Trainspotting, yeah, it was all right. I mean, I think it probably really is a good movie. I haven't watched it since I saw it, but I thought it was pretty just kind of depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Maguire, really did enjoy that movie.
Yep.
Scream was, Wes Craven's kind of mock on the horror genre, and just thought that was a really good movie. Not necessarily some of the sequels, but when Scream came out, that was a big thing.
It's kind of a comeback for Wes Craven in many ways.
The People vs. Larry Flint, I really enjoyed that movie. All the actors in it. I even liked Courtney Love in the movie.
Yeah, she's really good in that.
And From Dusk Till Dawn, I didn't really care for that movie. I just thought it was kind of a silly action horror.
Mm-hmm.
Both years had pretty good movies. I enjoyed a lot of them.
Yeah, the movies from 1986, I'd have to say I really enjoyed Labyrinth as a kid. Remember watching that with my sister. Stand By Me was pretty entertaining. I'd still watch that to this day.
Yeah, Stand By Me is probably one of Stephen King's best movies.
Yeah, and it had a lot of budding stars at the time, like Kiefer Sutherland.
River Phoenix, I think.
River Phoenix. They got the little fat kid, Vern, who was like Jerry O'Connell, went on to do some pretty good things with his career. I know you don't really appreciate The Fly. I think The Fly is one of my favorite horror movies. I really love David Cronenberg. I really like, some of the special effects, or, like the practical effects, I should say, they use in that film. Platoon is a great war movie. I love Aliens too. I think I appreciate Alien, the first one, a little bit more, even though I do agree with you, it is a little bit more slow moving. I've never seen Top Gun, which is kind of strange because I fancy myself a movie buff, but yeah, I never saw that one. For the 1996 movies, I liked a lot of these when they came out. Really enjoyed seeing Twister in the theater, Independence Day. Trainspotting, yeah, it's a really dark movie, but I think it's really, really hard-hitting kind of drama coming out of Scotland. Thought Fargo was excellent. Jerry Maguire was pretty good, I thought. Scream was really unique, kind of like popularized the horror genre again in the 1990s. I think they kind of faded away, but then this kind of had like a big comeback, and you have the subsequent kind of movies that tried to emulate them, like I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend and things like that. The Rock was a decent action film. I love Sling Blade. I thought it was really good. And I agree with you. The People versus Larry Flint was good. English Patience really boring. And Dusk Till Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn, I thought it was kind of, like you said, kind of stupid, kind of silly. So yeah, I think both years had some decent films. I enjoyed a lot of them.
And some hit music from 1986. We had the Bangles with Walk Like an Egyptian. Van Halen, Why Can't This Be Love? Madonna, Papa Don't Preach. Bon Jovi, You Give Love a Bad Name. Lionel Richie, Dancing on the Ceiling. Glass Tiger, Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone. And Cyndi Lauper with True Colors. The song of the year for the Billboard's Top 100 was That's What Friends Are For from Dion and Friends. And the song of the year for the Grammys was Higher Love by Steve Winwood.
Some hit music coming out of 1996 included Tracy Chapman's Give Me One Reason, Celine Dion's Because You Loved Me, Alanis Morissette with Ironic, Eric Clapton's Change the World, the Tony Rich Project with Nobody Knows, Gin Blossom's hit song Follow You Down, Joan Osborne with One of Us, Los Del Rio with Macarena. The top song from the Billboard Top 100 was Macarena, and the song that walked away with Best Song at the Grammys was Change the World by Eric Clapton.
Some of the music from 1996 I do remember. I don't know if I know Change the World by Eric Clapton. Not sure if I know that one. Maybe if I heard it. I did like Joan Osborne's One of Us. Kinda anyway. Tracy Chapman, I didn't mind her as a singer. Not a Celine Dion fan, even though she's Canadian. Alanis Morissette, I did like that album. I think that album anyway.
Jagged Little Pill.
But I recall her from the 80s where she was like a hip-hop dancer, singer.
Yeah, I didn't know that until actually recently somebody pointed it out.
And some of the 1986 songs and also albums. I mean, these are songs from albums, but a lot of these albums had great songs like Bon Jovi's You Give Love a Bad Name. That had a lot of hit songs like Living on a Prayer and songs like that came from that year. Glass Tiger was a Canadian band that most people probably wouldn't know outside of the country. Cyndi Lauper, I was a Cyndi Lauper fan throughout the 80s. The Bangles, Walk Like an Egyptian, that was a pretty popular song. And I'm a big Van Halen fan.
Yeah, the 1986 music doesn't really stick out for me too much, aside from the Bon Jovi song. And, the 1996 songs, I remember all of these. I really liked, Alanis Morissette. I think me and my sister and my parents, really enjoyed her music. My mother really loved Celine Dion, but I couldn't really stand her. And the song that really sticks out for me from 1996 was Macarena, just because everyone did that stupid dance. And, you'd go to a wedding or like a Jack and Jill or something like that, and everyone would line up and do the stupid
So
moves.
it sticks out in a bad way.
Yeah, it's kind of an annoying song. I do remember the Eric Clapton song Change the World. It's a pretty good song.
And in TV news and other events for 1986... In TV, we had the Oprah Winfrey Show debuted on national TV for the first time. And the TV show Elf debuts in September of this year. Some popular toys from 1986. The Omnibot 2000 came out, and My Buddy Doll, which I think either Child's Play was a ripoff from, or vice versa. Some technical breakthroughs from 1986. We had the largest space station up until that point. The Mir space station was launched into orbit from the Soviet Union. And Richard Branson's boat, the Virgin Challenger 2, breaks the world record for crossing the Atlantic Ocean. And some news events from 1986. We had the Soviet nuclear reactor at Chernobyl exploding in April of this year. The Space Shuttle Challenger blows up after taking off. Mike Tyson becomes the youngest heavyweight champion in history. The first case of mad cow disease is recorded in England. The first Goodwill Games are held in Moscow in July of this year. And smoking is banned from all public transportation in the U.S. and I think in Canada too. So there's no more smoking on airplanes and charter buses and stuff like that.
And some notable TV events from 1996 include Fox introducing its Fox Tracks Glowing Puck during its telecast of the 46th National Hockey League All-Star Game. We had the Phil Donahue Show ending after 29 years on the air. And at this point in history, more than 1 billion households worldwide now owned television sets, and Animal Planet and Discovery Civilization was launched. A popular toy release from 1996 was the Tickle Me Elmo. Some technical breakthroughs of the year include Dolly the Sheep, the first mammal to be successfully cloned from an adult cell. It was born in the Roslin Institute in Scotland. Deep Blue, which was a chess computer, defeated the chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov for the first time. And a Swedish man named Goran Kropp reached the Mount Everest summit alone without oxygen after having bicycled there from Sweden. And Viagra, a treatment for erectile dysfunction, is patented by Pfizer. Some big news events of the year included the United Nations adopting the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. This treaty banned all nations from testing nuclear explosions above or below ground for any purpose, military or civilian. Kofi Annan was appointed head of the UN in this year. And Prince Charles and Diana, Princess of Wales, get divorced. And we also have mad cow disease breaking out in Britain.
As far as news and events from 1986, I think the Soviet Union, or Russia now, but I think they had quite the year. They had obviously Chernobyl explosion, which a lot of people know now was quite the big deal.
I think people now realize that it was a lot bigger than at that time, because I think the Soviet Union was trying to cover up a lot of it.
And they also launched the Mir space station in the same year. And then, which is weird to me because this wasn't in the miniseries of Chernobyl or anything, but they actually had the first Goodwill Games in Moscow.
Oh, really?
Which took place in July. And the explosion of Chernobyl happened in April of that year. So it was probably quite dangerous for, I think it was like 3,000 athletes that went to Moscow to compete in those games.
Right.
So I wonder if they even knew about that at that time. And I thought it was interesting in 1986, the first case of mad cow was recorded in England. And then for you in 1996, a big case of mad cow disease broke out.
That's right.
That year. So
10 years apart.
Toys, Tickle Me Elmo, I remember that doll, kinda. I mean, obviously I wasn't into toys at that point that much. I was never into dolls, really, so.
Yeah, but you remember them being in high demand, kind of.
Yeah. Elf came out in 86. That was a show I really enjoyed. Oprah, I didn't really watch. I think she was kind of popular probably in Chicago, like she had her own TV show in Chicago.
Right.
But it became national in that year. The Omnibot 2000, a lot of people probably don't know or don't remember. That was kind of a toy I really wanted. It was a little robot that played cassette tapes.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of weird how, I remember when I was a kid, I remember people smoking on airplanes and stuff like that. Obviously I didn't because I was, young, but I didn't realize it was that early that they had banned smoking on public transportation. I thought it might have been a little later. But it's also weird, a lot of airplanes, you can still see the ashtrays.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I didn't start flying until I was about 5 years old, but I remember seeing the little trays in the armrest.
A lot of flights still have them today.
Yeah.
Or some of the older planes anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, the 1986, I was only 2 years old at the time, so I don't, obviously none of this really struck me at that time, but I remember learning about stuff like Chernobyl later on, and I think the Space Shuttle Challenger blowing up on TV, that's like one of the most insane things.
I forgot about that.
Because I remember hearing like one of the astronauts on that Challenger
was a
teacher, and like they had all her students kind of like sitting around like in anticipation, like, oh, there's our teacher, she's going up into space, and then the thing just blows up into smithereens, and it's like, oh my god, like, can you imagine how dark and like shitty that would be?
I forgot to mention that. That was one of the biggest events that I do remember from my childhood.
Yeah. Did you see it on TV, like live, or?
I was in my elementary school, and all the students were brought into the gymnasium, and they rolled out, this, tube TV on a rolling cart type thing.
Yep.
And I think they probably just originally put it on to watch the launch.
Yeah.
And then that happened, and I remember just being in there watching. I didn't really, not to sound bad, I didn't really care that much at the time.
I bet most...
I was young.
Yeah, I bet most kids didn't even understand.
And I was just glad not to be in class.
Yeah.
I do remember, like they say, at least say for the John F. Kennedy shooting, it's one of those events where people, you can say, where were you when this happened?
Like 9/11 and stuff like that, yeah.
So I do remember that. But that was a really big event for me that I do remember.
Yeah, that and Chernobyl, I mean, those are the ones that stick out for me. As for the 1996, I remember the glowing puck. I'm not a big hockey fan myself, but obviously I had a lot of friends coming from Canada who loved hockey, and they thought this was kind of like really ridiculous that they had to put this on.
Yeah, I'm a huge hockey fan, and I didn't like it that much.
Prince Charles and Diana divorcing. I remember a lot of people were kind of devastated by this because their wedding was like a huge deal.
Yeah, their whole life was kind of followed a lot from the 80s up until that point.
Yeah. But yeah, some pretty big events for both years.
Of course, there's a lot more music, movies, and events from both 1986 and 1996. So feel free to let us know about your favorites and any of your memories from these specific years in the comments below, wherever you find this podcast.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you regarding these years and get your feedback. Now let's move on to the main topic of this episode. It's time for Battle of the Decade. Thanks for watching that clip, and if you like what you saw, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Leave us your comments below and check out more at 10yearsapart.com. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. You can find the full episode of that podcast this clip was from, plus other videos from us right here. Thanks again.